Live streaming provided by Alpha Geek Radio and Alpha Geek Video. Visit tunein.alphageekradio.com to learn more.
Finally, Friday is being brought to you this week by Major Spoilers VIP and Patreon members from around the world. If you would like to become a patron, we can sure use your help. Head over to patreon.com/majorspoilers, patreon.com/majorspoilers, and sign up today. Oh, I gotta tell you, it's like I almost don't know what I am doing. Go figure. We are back. First show in probably about a month. I'm Steven Schleicher, and joining me is Dr. Brad Will. Hey, Brad.
Well, hi.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
How was your break?
It was pretty awesome.
You guys relaxed, didn't you?
No, we drove. Some
people find that relaxed. That's how I relax. It's like when we go visit my parents.
Yeah.
I just I put in like an earbud. Let the kids scream at each other. The wife sits way in the back of the van because I guess because if the kids need something, she's right there to grab the sandwich or the snacks or whatever. And I just sit up there and I just let my mind just focus on other things as I cruise on down the highway.
Yeah.
So I find it very relaxing.
Wow. Yeah. No.
Okay. All right.
It was a good trip, though.
So for those of you that are aware or maybe not aware, we have a major storm brewing here in the central part of the United States, stretching all the way from Colorado all the way over to Missouri, St. Louis, and maybe even beyond. A huge ice storm on the way. And this ice storm, Brad, reminds me of when I was trying to remember the exact date. I want to say I had to have been in like 6th or 7th grade, getting close to going into 8th grade, I think. So maybe 6th grade. But anyway, it started out, back up. My parents live on top of a hill that's basically a bunch of rock. Right?
Okay.
Limestone, porous rock.
All right.
So when they built the house, even though it's sealed on the outside, a lot of water still would come into the basement because of the porous nature of the rock around the house.
Right.
And so we have a sump pump. They have a sump pump down in the bottom, so people don't know it's this, like a hole cut in the ground of your basement, and it fills up with water, and then there's a pump that when it gets up to a certain level, pumps it out outside.
Yeah.
And there had been times over the past where that sump pump had gotten broken or wasn't able to keep up with stuff, and so the basement would flood. So this was a common thing. Well, it had been raining for like 3 days straight, and so the sump pump was running almost nonstop. So it's Sunday night, if I remember my days correctly. Sunday night, it's raining really hard. The sump pump has been going for like 10 hours straight. We're sitting at dinner, and then all of a sudden, kaboom! We heard the sump pump just stop running, and everybody at the dinner table, my mom, my dad, my sister, and I, knew what the problem was. So we all rushed downstairs to see what the problem was, see if this pump just needed to be reset or whatever. No, the motor's completely burned out because it's been running nonstop. So we start getting buckets and we start, filling it up, running up the stairs, going outside, dumping it, which, in hindsight's kind of stupid because you're dumping it right next to the house where it's just going to filter down and fill the sump pump back up again. I don't know what it is. Jarmo says that the stream keeps cutting in and out every couple of seconds, and I don't know what that is because I'm getting good stream information from YouTube. So I don't know. I don't know if this is happening to everybody or what the deal is. So hopefully it's not breaking it up too bad.
It's probably me.
Nah, who knows? It's just probably today, right? So I'll get to today in just a moment. So then the next thing, my dad's like, well, let me see. It's still early enough on a Sunday evening. Maybe I can find a hardware store. I can get a sump pump replacement. So he calls and he finds somebody. And sure enough, somebody is like, yes, I will stay open for you to get here. So he runs 10 miles to go get one of these things, come back. In the meantime, my mom has called some neighbor friends. And so friends and family, this is a nice thing about a good community is they all always come together. So there's like 4 or 5 families, literally taking buckets up and down the stairs, dumping it out, all these other things. Come back, some pump is going, get it installed, everything's working. We say thanks to everybody, and just as everyone is leaving, pow, electricity goes out.
Oh, no.
So now we're screwed, right? Because without electricity, you can't get your sump pump going. So again, everybody's bailing. My dad's making some phone calls because, the Plano telephone system still works when the electricity is out.
Right.
And he finds this guy like 30 minutes away who owns a hardware store, like an Ace Hardware store. And the guy has a generator. And the guy is willing to go down to the store and open it up on a Sunday after 7 o'clock at night. So my dad can get a sump pump so our basement doesn't completely flood and destroy the house.
Right.
So he's doing that. We're dumping water and pouring it out. And this is probably about 8, 9 o'clock by this point. And suddenly it starts to get really cold outside. and the water starts turning to ice.
No.
And it is just pouring. It's literally raining ice, sleet, frozen rain.
Yeah.
And so finally my dad gets back. It's like 9 o'clock at night. Everyone's exhausted from carrying 5-gallon buckets up and down the stairs nonstop for 2-3 hours.
Uh-huh.
We've got some neighbors who are using hand pumps to try to pump it out.
Yeah.
It's starting to fill up in other parts of the basement and everything. Come back. Dad gets the generator going. I'm exhausted. My best friend is exhausted. We're falling asleep. Dad gets a generator, a little 2-stroke engine going outside on the back porch, hooked up and everything. Some pump is going. Looks like the day is saved. Oh, it's so late at night, though, and the generator's so loud. My mom was like, why don't you just go down the hill to your friend's house and stay there? They've got a fireplace going and everything, and you guys will be warm, and you can go to sleep. And I'm like, okay, fine. We go down, sleeping, whatever. About 5 in the morning, my best friend's mom, Jeannie, comes in, and she's like, Steven, your dad's gone to the hospital. And so you're not, school's canceled today. You don't have to worry about that, but your dad's gone to the hospital. I'm like, what? What's going on? And it turns out my dad still had to go to work in Kansas City, which is like 45 minutes, an hour away. And so the front door had frozen shut. So he had gone out the back door, promptly stepped on a ice-covered rock, slipped and broke his ankle, and had to go and go to surgery. Well, so the only thing that could happen was my sister was going to stay with friends down the street. And I'm like, I don't know, 11, 12 years old, something like that, when you're 6th, 7th grade, something like that. I was left at home for 3 days manning this generator by myself. Oh, I remember why there was no school on Monday, is because it was spring break. So my mom's at the hospital with my dad. He had to get surgery. He has still today he has pins at his ankles from having to get this thing healed.
Yeah.
It's spring break. Spring break is ruined. So basically the electricity finally came back on a Thursday of that spring break.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, failed sump pump, had to get a generator, broken my dad's ankle, and spring break was ruined.
Now, was this? I mean, and you've got to keep the generator running. That is keeping it gassed up.
Yeah.
Now, was it one of the really a 2-stroke where you got to do the mixing gas and oil together?
For some reason, I seem to remember that it was a mixture of gas and oil. It may have been straight up gas, but it was one of those that to kill it, you flipped a switch that basically grounded the spark plug.
Yeah.
And you had to prime it and pump it. It was the same motor that you have on your snow blowers today.
Yeah.
To get this thing going.
Jeez.
So this week, that's hitting the back of my mind. We've got this major ice storm coming through. And I got up this morning and I said, you know what, maybe I was like, first of all, chances of us actually getting anything, 0.
Right.
But then I said, a ½ inch to an inch of ice expected. And I was like, I just don't trust our electric company enough to keep the lights on. Maybe I ought to get a generator. I was like, nah, maybe it's not. And I hemmed and hawed until about 11 o'clock. And I was like, let me just casually mention this to my wife and say, wife, do you think it would be a good idea? I don't know why it's echoing a lot.
It's because it's so awesome.
I guess. I don't know what's going on today. It's been too long since we've been here. I have an idea. Here's why it's echoing. Because I'm an idiot. That should take care of the echo.
Okay.
We don't hear it. The listeners hear that. So I go to Home Depot and I go up there and they're like, hey, if you want a generator, you have to sign up for it. I'm like, okay. And so I go over and I say, okay, I'd like to get one of these generators. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, well, we'll put your name on the list. We don't have any in. There should be some in at 1 o'clock. I said, well, okay, how many are coming in? She said about 44. I said, okay, where am I on the list? You're number 50. Son of a, right? I can't believe this. So I go and grab lunch and I run into Brad. He's having lunch with his lovely wife.
Yep.
And we chat for a little bit and I tell him, hey, I may be a little late, but just in case, just remember, I am trying to get a generator for my house. So at 1:45, the Home Depot calls. And now it doesn't show up on my cell phone as Home Depot.
Oh, right.
And it's just a phone number. And I pick up and I'm like, hello. And she's like, hi, this is so-and-so. Did you order and again, they're just writing it on a piece of paper. So anybody could grab this piece of paper off the service desk. Mm-hmm. Did you want to purchase a generator? I was like, yes, please. And she goes, okay, well, they're in. If you want one, you have to buy it right now over the phone. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I do need a generator. I can be there in literally 5 minutes, but I'm not giving you a credit card number over the phone. And she's like, well, if you don't make this purchase now, if you don't want to give your credit card number over the phone, we're releasing this generator to the floor, and whoever is here can buy it.
Well, that's why guy number 50 on the list got a call, because there were at least 5 other people who
were smart enough to go, what a scam.
Stupidest thing I ever heard.
This is what a scam this is.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let's see how quickly I can get to Home Depot.
Yeah.
So I rush to Home Depot. There are literally 3 generators left. And I say, is this for sale? She says, yes, I want one right now. And so I got one.
Yeah.
For those of you that have been following this saga, I got one. And it's home, but I had to go and get some gas canisters and oil and all that kind of stuff. So if I smell a little gassy, Brad, just remember.
It's not for the usual reason.
Yeah, I was going to say, just remember, it's because all I've had to eat today was stress and a bean burrito. I don't know why the stream is hanging the way it is, because I'm getting a good stream status, listeners. So, stream status shows good. I don't know what is up. Status shows good. Let me see what happens if I stop this stream and restart it.
I see you're getting a lot of awkward stills of me making faces.
No, that's just you, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll still record this on our end. And, well, see, now I don't even know what's going on.
You know, you really need some professionals running this show here, man.
I wish.
You're new at this.
I wish.
Tell you.
It's been a month. I can't even stop the stream. It says complete. Now, how do I get this started up again? I probably can't.
Now you've ruined the whole thing.
I have ruined it. I'll just go over here to stream live. Add stream options. Oh, let's, whatever. We will just continue our show without other people, and people can watch this later. I'm sorry, people who are watching on the live stream.
We're not even streaming now?
Well, it doesn't look like it. We're still recording.
Wow.
Sorry, everyone. Show will be up later. This is the other thing, Brad, about today. Can't even get a stream going right.
It's Friday the 13th, dude.
Oh, today's Friday the 13th?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. What did you think?
I did not know it was Friday the 13th. I just thought it was, hey, Steven, let's kick you in the balls. I thought that was what today was.
No, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes a little bit more sense.
Why are we even trying?
Well, sometimes I feel that way. So that's my generator story.
That's a good one.
At the very least, though, Brad, we've got a gas fireplace that kind of smells a little gassy that we could use in an emergency, but it's really not one I would want to use because literally 10 minutes after you light it, it still smells like gas in the house.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, so we don't use it.
Like propane or natural gas?
Like natural gas. It's like the gas you get from the gas company.
That's scary.
Yeah, so we're not going to turn it on. So that's why it was more important about the generator and enough to keep the space heater going and a little hot plate and of course the Xbox.
So I apparently don't love my family as much as you love yours because I have no generator and my gas fireplace does not work.
Well, so here's what I'm hoping. I haven't taken the generator out of the car yet. I'm hoping.
I'll give you $50 for it.
Really? No. This was an I mean, this is a huge. This is as big as that chair that you were sitting in.
This is nothing like what your dad had.
No, this is like a powerful 6,000 whatever it is, 6,000 amp.
Yeah.
720 kilovolt gonna power your entire furnace system.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So no, I was not happy with having to pay that money. But then just this scam of you're gonna have to pay for it on over the phone.
Yeah, that's not the first bizarre interaction I've heard of with that Home Depot.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's not just me.
Yeah, I've had my share of what are you people doing?
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure it wasn't me. So I didn't even buy my gas cans. They had those giant 5-gallon gas cans that you could buy there. I didn't even buy those there. I just went somewhere else to buy those.
Yeah.
So
make sure you fill those up because if the whole city goes without power.
I know.
The gas.
I've got at least 30 gallons of gas.
Okay.
So I should be good.
So we could blow up a lot of stuff.
Could.
Yeah,
Probably could.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
So what else is going on? Well, obviously we can't have people call in because we got a crappy stream, although people can call in, I suppose, if they want. But so a while ago I had said that I was been getting solicitations, and I backed a couple of Kickstarters, and I've purchased a couple of these 3D scenery prints where basically instead of buying the big expensive dungeon tile type systems, you can go and you can 3D print your own. So I've been doing that. I found a system that I actually like. Now, this is the system that you don't like. You don't like the floors on these. I think they're kind of cool. I've seen some good paint jobs on these, and I think they look kind of neat. 3x3s, you can do them 6x6 or stuff like that. But the walls, I think, are super cool on these. What do you think? This is your first look at the walls. I
like the walls. I do not like the floors. In fact, they don't even vaguely resemble each other. The walls.
Well, they have a bunch of different. Floor systems that are in there. This is, I think, the generic dungeon floor tile. I like this for some reason. I like the look of it. The other one that I have, and I forget the company that it did, it's fine too, but I just think it's too, I don't know, sloppy. It's too uneven. The little squares are uneven because it's supposed to resemble natural stone and how it moves and covers that. But I like these.
Yeah. Well,
and I love the Dragon Lock system, or the Open Lock system, I guess is what it's called right now. The company that I'm looking at for this group right now, they have updated their locking system to be more in line with the OpenForge stuff that's free online, like Thingiverse and those kinds of things. So I'm kind of digging the 3D printing of the dungeon tiles. I've actually got my 3D printer actually working correctly again, and I'm printing these off in about 20 minutes per tile for this. The walls take about an hour, but I'm printing like 4 of them at a time.
Right.
And I just like the texture of these walls. And then they've got some crypt wall things that are there too. I'm actually going to print out a dungeon that I've seen online that someone was demoing. And I'm going to print out as many pieces as that person had in their sample dungeon, just to see how many pieces it is and what the overall cost would be to print these out.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity,
yes,
how much would you pay for one of these floor tiles?
Hard to say.
How much would you pay?
How much
would you pay for one of these floor tiles?
I would pay for that floor tile. I would be comfortable paying $1.50 for this little 3x3 thing. Yeah.
Okay, because the actual cost of what my slicer software is telling me that it's costing for this PLA is about 89 cents, about 90 cents.
That's not bad.
So, if I were to sell this for $1.50 a tile, then that would be a nice profit on the plastic, but also would start to begin to cover the cost of my time and the cost of the printer,
right,
and the maintenance on the printer.
Right.
That seems about right. So, what would you pay for one of these walls? Now, the walls come in different shapes. This is a short one.
Yeah.
They have a long one that will actually go 3x3.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe $1.50 again for a 3x3 wall.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But I'm assuming. Yeah. I mean, that seems.
This one has a little bit more plastic. This actually has more plastic in it than the floor tile. It's actually a little bit more expensive, about $1. Okay. $1.10, something like that. So there's still a profit on there. So I'm wondering then, what would you expect if you were to have an entire collection? What would you want in a collection?
What would I want in a collection?
Yeah, so if you were to buy these, would you want to buy them individual pieces, or would you want to have, here's a starter set?
If I were buying these, I'll tell you, see,
I know you're not going to buy one because you're Brad.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Well, because the other thing, my 3D dungeon modeling stuff is papercraft stuff.
Oh, right.
So my go-to thing is the color printer, paper printer.
Yeah. So you're looking at like Red Dragon or whatever that company is.
I did WorldWorks games. WorldWorks was what I.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if they're still in business or not.
Well, I think the Red Dragon group. They're the ones that actually have one of the 3D set that you like, the 3D printed set that you prefer. Yeah. They're the ones doing that one.
Yeah.
This one is by a different company.
But so the papercraft stuff, I mean, for me, it was always plan it, figure out what you need, and make what you need.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a generic, like I guess it's more like, I think in terms of the Lego model sets as opposed to the Lego generic bucket of bricks things.
Right.
So I don't. Yeah, I would
Or
always.
Fat Dragon is what I'm
I would always need a project and then say this is what I'm really going to use this for.
Mm-hmm.
And then complete that project.
So you wouldn't want a starter set of like 20 of these 3x3s and enough walls to go all the way around and some stairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it turns out those never work for whatever it is you want, right? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's always, there's never quite enough walls, and so you've got to do something else there. There's nowhere for the stairs to go, so you make it out of books or dice or something. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
These kinds of sets, these are cool.
Yeah.
I always end up realizing that it never quite, like for playing D&D, for example, it never quite works out. For playing like a Warhammer or some other kind of like a mini combat game, that's a different story altogether, because you make a little set piece and you use it 20 times.
Yeah.
That's a different thing altogether.
Yeah, well, that's one of the nice things that I like about these as a modular tile, because you can interconnect them and you can create as many rooms or layouts or whatever that you need. And I've seen several people online who have been using these and have created some very fascinating rooms with them that they've actually used in gameplay.
Yeah.
So I think the reason why I'm just printing out as many as I can is because I want to see what I can create, what the cost is, whether it's worth it or not, and what the market would bear when it comes to purchasing these.
And what's kind of fun, if the guys who make this, do they have any planning software?
They don't. So what's happening is, and this is why a lot of them are we were looking at here a moment ago, the Fat Dragon Games website, where they have their Dragon Lock system that you can actually get a free sample set, which is what I've used before, and I've actually purchased a couple of other things. Those are pretty nice. Then there is, and I forget the other group that's doing, I think it's a Kickstarter or Patreon or something that they're using for these tiles that I've been showing you. So yeah, they don't really have, and I forgot your question.
Yeah, planning software.
Yeah, they don't have planning software because that's how they're getting their money is. We've got a set of like Citadel stuff or Crypt stuff or whatever. That's what we're offering as a set. I think they've had a couple of polls where they've said, hey, what do you want to see in the next theme set? What do you want to see in miniature pieces? Those kinds of things. We'll create them and then you can buy them. It would be nice if you could say, hey, I'm building my room and it's an S shape and I need this many floor tiles, or I need a 20 by 20 this way and I need that much wall and this much stairs and traps and whatever other things. That would be kind of cool. But I haven't seen anyone that does that offers that software. Now there is a guy on Thingiverse who, it's the OpenForge system. So if you go and do a search on Thingiverse for OpenForge, his is probably the best stuff that I've seen as far as the tiling system. In fact, the Fat Dragon stuff is very similar to the OpenForge stuff. I would say almost exactly like the OpenForge stuff. But this guy is like creating stuff all the time. So if you need something, chances are he's already built it. And for the last 3 years, he's been doing it. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Yeah. So,
and I personally like those little diorama pieces. Like a little, maybe you'll have like a little fountain or something like that, or some little item that you wouldn't otherwise be able to model, or you wouldn't otherwise be able to find. The Reaper Bones minis, they have just some line of like dungeon dressing stuff, a little bed, a little table and chairs, and that kind of stuff. That's the stuff I find really useful, because you can just sort of toss it down in a lot of different environments.
Yeah, you could throw it on a mat. You could you could just use it for whatever. And that's, a lot of these people now have those things: barrels, chests, crates, torches, columns, bookcases, bars. That you can do there. And then again, more onto your war game stuff. They're actually now starting to have 3D printed town pieces. Right. So you're building a ruined house that's been bombed out for your 40K battles. Yeah. Or low hanging walls or those kinds of things. You'd be more interested in that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, what about painting these? Because that's the next thing. I've got some paints.
Well, paint's a challenge.
I gave you some of these to paint.
Yeah. And we've had cold weather. So cold weather is a nightmare for spray priming.
Right.
And I don't want to do it in the house.
Why not? Everything will smell wonderful.
Yeah. Just dying at things.
What's a little dying when you're painting miniatures?
That's right. Death, yeah, whatever. So there's some challenges to painting 3D printed stuff. And some, and one of those challenges is the ultimate texture of the 3D printed item.
Right.
So those can be a little weird because like this item here has a very definite crosshatch pattern on it.
Yeah.
And using the painting techniques I use would just only emphasize that. Because like I like to use a lot of washes.
Right.
That highlight those shadow areas. And so it would look more like sort of the deck of a spaceship. Now, if this were like some sort of sci-fi thing, and it was the deck of a spaceship, I'd be totally cool with that. And I could just throw a wash on there. But just
I think people can see what he's talking about are the 3D printed lines that you see on here. It's still pretty smooth. The back is really smooth because it's on the flat plate.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's talking about these little lines that are showing up, which there's a couple of ways to do that. One, you could sand it. You could give it a light sanding. You could do a 200 grit sand on this and try to remove a little bit of that. My concern would be you don't want to sand too much because you're going to sand all the way through to the inner shell, which is what you don't want. The other option is there's some epoxy. It's called XTC epoxy, I believe is what it is. And you put it on there and it's self-leveling. So what ends up happening is you pour it on there, you spread it out, and then it just fills in all of the lines. Problem is this has a lot of lines that you want for the cut stone look,
right?
And it would fill that up too, right?
Yeah.
So then the third option that a lot of people talk about, and I know our friend Chinbeard, Bill Duran does this, and some other people do this, is get some some primer filler spray paint because it will fill in a lot of those very detailed lines while leaving everything else there to get a nice even coat on that.
Yeah, which is exactly the opposite of everything I do when I paint a mini.
Oh, really?
Because you want your primer to have absolutely no effect.
Right.
If you could get a primer that would shrink down to the, that's your best kind of primer. So just painting this has just sort of posed a. So what I think I'm going to do, and I was going to ask you what you were wanting to do with this stuff when I gave it back to you. So I was thinking about trying a different technique on each piece.
Yeah, do it.
You
Go for it. I mean, like I said, this is costing me literally 80 cents to print these out, and I'm doing this as an experiment, as a research right now.
Okay. Well,
because I see all these companies all these companies are saying, hey, here are our 3 things. All you have to do is print them out, and you can have your own dungeon tiles. Okay, so what does that really entail? Yeah. And there have been some YouTube channels that have started to address this a little bit, like you have to have a 3D printer, and then you have to buy the filament. Cost-wise for filament, 89 cents is not too bad, I think, for this. Okay. Or for like something like this with a stair piece, right? So I'm pretty okay with that as being a cost if you already have a 3D printer. So yeah, do whatever you want on the painting, because that's the next thing that I want to learn to do is actually learn to start doing some painting of 3D miniatures and models and those kinds of things, which, you're going to obviously help me out on this, but do whatever you want. So my first thought was, so I got these acrylic paints. I just went to the Hobby Lobby, and I'm sure that I probably paid too much for this. 120 milliliters for $3 or something. That's art
probably
acrylic.
Not bad. That's not bad.
So what I did was I got a black for like a base coat. Then I got a medium gray, a neutral gray color to kind of go on top of that for some dry brushing stuff on top of that. And then I got a white, which I could mix with gray or black to create an even lighter gray to do a third layer on top of that to do some highlights. But then I also got a brown that I could mix and get some different colors. And
a little green would work.
That's the one I didn't. That's the one I wanted to get was green, but I was like, I've already got 4 tubes of this. How about I just wait and try some stuff first? Because what I really want to do is get some green in there and then have some little like mossy stuff, the feeling of moss or mildew growing on the stuff.
So what's really going to happen though is you're going to realize
I'm going to just throw everything in the garbage next week.
No, but on a terrain piece like this, and especially when you get a lot of it, you're going to realize I could spend an hour working on each of these, or I could not.
Mm-hmm. I can just pay Brad to do it.
It's going to be it's going to be a question of time, and so eventually you're going to come down to what is the fastest way I can get some coverage on this.
Yeah.
And that's why sanding is not even like
yeah, you're not even gonna and the wall pieces. I mean, these are printed without supports, which is great. I'm not even gonna sand. I mean, this stuff isn't even gonna be. I'm not even gonna sand this. I mean, this is it right here for these wall pieces. This is it.
Yeah.
For the floor pieces, this is literally what I'm gonna do. And I'm debating whether I even need the black, but I'm just gonna quickly. I've got a some of these foam brushes.
Mm-hmm. Oh dear God.
I'm just going to take some of these foam brushes.
Steven.
What?
That's not even a brush. That's a...
whatever it is, a foam brush.
What the hell is that?
It's a foam brush. It says here, foam brush set. So just take that, cover it quickly, wipe it off quickly, let it dry. Then when it comes to the gray, take the gray, same thing. Dry brush it, boom, 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 boom. Move on to the next piece, boom, boom. Literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Give it a good, quick cover, move on to the next piece. Then the other thing is, I saw this demo of how someone was painting these. They have a sponge. And they literally kind of dip the sponge in it because the sponge has the texture. Then they're going over that and just real quickly going dab, 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 done. Dab, 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 done.
That works.
And then if you want to get some highlights, that's when you take your super dry brush and you take your lightest color and you just go doot, 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 just like that.
Sure.
That's not how you would do it?
No.
How would you do it?
I'm really a wash guy. So I would do a gray base coat.
Mm-hmm.
And then some kind of wash that is a dark.
Yeah, just get it in there. And
with a touch of green in it just to give it a little bit of an organic look.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe come back and hit it with a dry brush of your original base to cover it up again.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a touch of white in there for an instant, but that's it. So it's all base coat, wash it, maybe highlight it a little bit with a dry brush.
Yeah.
And get out.
How long? So it was like 5 minutes.
Tops.
Yeah.
But now you're also talking about you got to wait for everything to dry.
Oh, sure.
Those things,
yeah.
Right? So if you have like 30 of these and you're just
yeah, that's not going to take that long.
The problem though with these models, when you really sit down and look at it, is when you spray prime it, because you're going to want to spray prime it, or maybe you brush prime it. I don't know. I'm thinking of using that Krylon sandable primer because
I've seen that too. Yeah.
It'll throw a texture on there, but these holes where your little lynch pin pieces,
the lock pieces
go in these holes. So if you get a speck of primer in there, you're going to tighten these up so bad that your pins are just so tight in there now.
Yeah, these just come off, and then you just put your locks in there like
so
that.
You're going to have. So if you're going to spray prime this, you're going to have to mask every one of those little holes, which is a nightmare. Which I don't want to do, and then once you get it painted, what do you do to seal it? Because you've got to mask all those holes again. If you're going to use some kind of spray on.
Yeah, a lot of people do recommend you still seal it.
Yeah, you got to seal it.
Yeah.
And so I'm masking the little holes is just a flipping nightmare for me. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I think what you're going to ultimately decide, Stephen, is you're going to wish
I'd never thought of this.
You're going to wish you modeled this in black.
Well, and that's
you're going to wish you modeled this little pin,
look.
especially in black.
I don't know. I kind of like the pink or orange for the pins.
You're going to see your pins. You paint that up and you're going to see little bits of pink
is that a big deal though?
Well, when you get them painted, you'll tell me you were right.
I'm going to go over to majorspoilers.com. I'm going to click on this Amazon link.
Okay.
And I'm going to look.
I can see none of this, by the way.
I know you can't. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
But the people watching at home.
And not too many.
3D filament. I don't even know what I have purchased before. I know it's a 1.75 millimeter. Okay, so here is a spool of black filament. $21.52 is the cost.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find it in gray. Gizmo Dorks. Let's see. I'm trying to find. Okay, here's the same company, Hatchbox. 1.75 gray. Ooh, that's really more expensive. Is that the same? $48. So maybe black is cheaper. Although I always thought that the gray was the cheapest one. Maybe it's just this company. Maybe it's this brand. Yeah, same thing. 1 kilogram spool. $21. Gray, $48. So gray is twice as expensive. I always thought the gray and what I was paying for my filament, I always thought was about half the price of black. So maybe not. I do have a bunch of black filament, so I can still print these out in black, because that was the other thing is, do I want to print these out in black? Because some people, there are going to be some people that don't care about painting this at all, and they're okay with gray.
See, I'm not sure that person exists, Stephen.
Really?
So you go to this much trouble to create that, and then you would not go the next step and paint it.
I don't know.
Who would that be? Who is the person you're imagining there? I mean, I know we don't paint our Legos, but that's because we've come to accept that our Legos are Lego colored. But
well, yes, but Lego come in so many different colors these days.
Right. But you don't, you know what I'm saying? You don't go that far and then set a painted mini on top of it and go, well, good enough. Right?
Somebody might. I don't know. I don't know if those, you're right. I don't know if those people exist.
I don't think that guy exists.
Okay. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he or she does not.
Yeah. But don't accuse a woman of having that kind of foolish idea.
But, yeah, so somebody's going to want to paint these, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like black is usually the base coat.
Yeah, you're going to want to model these in black.
Because that's what I'm saying. If you're just doing a wash, though, if you're just doing a black wash, you just want to get into the spaces.
But so what's going to happen is all this side bit that you don't want to paint because you've got these link holes in it, and then these glowing pink things you've got in here. All of that's going to show.
So you don't lose them?
All of that's going to show. And you think it's not, but you're going to have it all painted up, and then see, I can see the pink.
But you can't see you're going to see those edges anyway. I mean, you're going to see this part,
right? But
anyway,
but
right?
if it's black, no, you won't, because your eye will just read it as shadow. That's what I'm saying. If it's black, it will disappear, and you will not see it.
Plus, I had a little bit of pink on the roll. That's the other reason I did it. So I had a little bit of pink lift, and I knew it wasn't going to take very much to do this in pink.
Sure.
Those clips. So
yeah, that was.
But black on black on black, that's going to be hard to find stuff. Okay.
Again, you're looking. You're trying to make an impression on the table. Finding the stuff is going to be a second.
Well, no. So what's going to happen is you don't put this together in front of your party, right? Okay. If you're setting up game night,
no, I see. But
you've built this ahead of time.
You're telling me
so that when it's time to reveal this, you pull out the whole room at once,
right? And
you say, "Ha! In this room, you've woken up and you don't know where you are, and there's a sword and it's glowing." And there's a room you can see there's an opening here, a door this way, and a door that way. What do you do? Oh, well, we're going to go to the door this way. And so then you pull out your other little piece, you snap it on, and you go, now here's this room.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there's another thing. These little snappies are really tough to work with.
That's not my fault.
No, I'm just saying. So here's the other thing I would do is I would forgo the little snappy clip things.
But that's how the whole system works. All of these guys. That's why this whole Dragon or open lock system that everyone is using is we're using these clips so you can clip them on. There's another system where it's got some clips that attach on the bottom that lock, but that doesn't look as interesting.
I have a system called sticky tack.
No.
And your sticky tack makes anything stick to anything, and it stays there until you're done with it, and then you pick it up and you move on, and you use it again later. And sticky tack is a beautiful thing.
Okay,
I bet you could work 10 times as fast.
Well,
with some well placed sticky tack.
Oh no, because you build this stuff ahead of time. You're not building it while
right. So you get a little piece of cardboard, you get a piece of like an old Amazon box or something. You go, okay, I want my room to be this big. You take your room, you put some sticky tack on the bottom of each one of these tiles. You line them all up, you press them down good. And then you got a light piece of cardboard with a bunch of plastic sticky tack to it, and you're ready to go. And you throw it on the table when you're ready.
Okay.
Like that.
All right.
You got to make that noise, too.
You got to make that noise? All right. All right, well, we'll see what happens.
It's a cool thing. Yeah, I'll paint up some different versions.
Brad seems very negative. He seems to be like a foam and paper guy.
I am a paper guy.
My thing is, and this is what I've been debating for ever since I started playing Dungeons & Dragons, is it better to just play on a flat mat and use everybody's imagination? You just dry erase marker it on, and if there's a prop, you just draw a little, hey, here's a box, that's a crate, and you let everybody do their imagination. Or do you print out a foam tile, a piece of paper, and put it on some foam core, and you just lay that down and say, here's your map, or here's your room, and it's got, colored markings of like, here's a barrel, and it's basically a bird's eye view of the room, but you see all the shapes on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you go in and say, okay, I'm going to get some foam core, and I'm actually going to build walls and a roof that can be removable so that as they move from inside to outside, I've got a roof to put on. I'm going to build little tables and chairs. Oh. Or do you go and 3D print everything? Or do you just go out and buy Dwarven Forge stuff, which is like $300 for 3 of these tiles?
And then there are 2 other radical options.
Okay, what are they? You just use your imagination.
Does everybody get Roll20?
Well, there's Roll20. Yeah, I mean, that's another option, which I'm using now.
Which is a whole other thing and really cool. Or do you use your imagination like the little kids do?
Right.
Now, have you played? Now, we've got Yellow Light on a Critical Hit right now, which we did entirely Theater of the Mind. There was no mini, no map, no nothing.
I was fine with that.
Was that the first time you have played?
Not Theater of the Mind.
It was not your first time of doing that. You've done that other. Okay. How did you feel about that?
I'm fine with it. I'm really fine with any system.
Yeah.
Any system that people want to use. So we've done Theater of the Mind. We have done just a mat. Right, just a Rodrigo draws on a mat. I've done the same thing, draw on a mat. And then we are doing Roll20, which is basically draw on a mat on your computer, which I particularly don't. I guess it depends because I've seen some really good designs using Roll20 where they actually have like what looks like a real cave, and if you pay the extra money on Roll20, you can have the fog of war light effect, light up the room and everything, and that's really cool too. But a lot of people that I see, it's just like, here's a box that I drew. Here's this room that you're in. Go. Right.
Well, you see, there's something. There's actually a lot to be said for that, I think.
Why is that?
The less realistic your mini or your mat or your anything looks, the more your imagination fills in the gaps.
Sure.
And the more realistic it gets, then that's more how your thing looks. And for me, as much as, I paint the minis and I do all this, and I used to be really, painting my minis for my RPGs.
Yeah.
And now I paint the minis for my board games.
Yeah.
Because the RPGs, I would rather just play in my head, It's not a spoiler to say that Yellow Light scenario ends with a dramatic.
Yeah, it's a dramatic ending.
Combat-ish kind of thing.
Yeah.
To which we had nothing.
There was no map or any of that stuff.
And I'm sure everybody had a slightly different vision of that, probably a significantly different vision in each of the players' heads.
Right.
But it was a vision, and probably a pretty cool one, cooler than anything I could have painted up and sat in front of them.
Right.
And it's and in that scenario had a cast of hundreds. I mean, there were it was little individual things going on in the midst of massive chaos.
Right.
Which you could never depict properly.
Oh no.
Could never come close. And that's important because when you so if you go, I'm gonna do my dungeon and it's gonna be these little tiles and all the little walls, and maybe I'll paint some moss on the wall to give it a little bit of an atmospheric effect. It's amazing how that little bit of moss becomes the only atmospheric effect that really happens, right? And really what happens is that you paint a little moss on the first couple of these, and then you realize I don't have time to paint a little moss on all of these, so I'm going to...
Some people do, though.
Make them... yeah, but not you and I. I mean,
no. You and I do not.
Yeah, we're not going to be
No, in fact, that 3D printed giant monster that's sitting out there by the refrigerator and the TV, I had John paint that. I was like, John... Here's a monster that I 3D printed. Why don't you paint it? Do whatever you want, and then maybe we'll use it, maybe we won't, but I just want to see what you can do with it.
Yeah.
And just gave it to him, and that was it, because I didn't have time to do it. I
Right,
didn't know what I was doing. So, And he did a fine job on it.
Yeah.
But you're right, I wouldn't have had the time to do that.
Yeah. And so what happens when you throw down a bunch of these tiles, right? So all of your rooms are square or some version of square.
Right.
All of your walls are the same or some version of exactly the same.
Yeah.
And you get locked into a really generic, and so
I totally understand where you're coming from.
And every time your party has a fight in something that looks like a dungeon, it's always the same dungeon in a different shape, and it really does create a limitation. I mean, it really sort of, as much as you go, wow, this will really bring on the immersion. It has precisely the opposite effect.
Then if that's the case, why are dungeon tiles and 3D printeds and foam printed and all those other things, why are they so popular? Why do they sell? Why then are people excited about something like this when it comes up?
Well, it's the same reason I buy a lot of supplements for RPGs I don't actually play, because it's cool to play with the bits, because I don't actually have time to invite my friends over and play at a weekly game anymore. And the bits are fun. And I've got dungeon tiles that I've made dungeons out of, and they're stuck with sticky tack on foam board in my closet in my basement, and no party has ever seen that dungeon. It's just a dungeon.
You just made it for your own amusement,
just to play with the dungeon.
Well, maybe then that's the other thing too. Maybe it's for someone's amusement or planning or whatever, just to play with.
Yeah,
but that's
a reason to do that. Yeah.
I have seen some very incredible pieces that are done, and people really get into having that stuff. I can totally see where you're coming from as far as imagination is going to be a million times more intense than anything you could put in front of somebody. But I think there's also this, I'm your game master, and behold, whoosh,
right.
Here's this whole thing, and then suddenly people get really excited about stuff, and they have a better sense of 3D space and where things are at and what's at stake, and a really cool Call of Cthulhu board game miniature looks incredibly horrifying when Brad Will paints it up, as opposed to a green plastic Cthulhu that sits on your board game.
Yeah,
because it adds that much more to the experience.
But boy, if you just describe vaguely that horrifying monster that's creeping around back there, that's gonna beat your mini any day of the week.
You think?
I get the urge to always, it's more and more stuff and more equipment and cooler.
Well, it's always that way with anything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at your current addiction with Arkham Horror, the card game. You were just griping a minute ago before we started about how there's a storm a coming and FedEx ain't going to deliver my new expansion yet.
Yeah. And I've literally double sleeved my cards for that game. By the way,
and literally Eldritch Horror came in. The new expansion, the Dreamlands expansion, came in for me this week.
Yeah.
And it's like, here are all these pieces and all of these things and all of this stuff. And it's like, wow, how about we just do away with all of this stuff and just use our imagination? Oh, my goodness. Oh, for a minute I was like, is this a hardback manual?
Well, you could do that.
You could. I doubt it.
I mean, this is a board game. This is a board game, and that's a card game. And this. But when you talk about your RPG, and I mean, I guess that's what I'm suggesting is, when you're talking about an RPG, a tabletop RPG, there really is this urge to buy more equipment and buy more stuff, and that urge is really counterproductive in a lot of ways. I do think so.
Ooh, look at that sideboard.
It's dreamy.
And this is literally a sideboard. This isn't a top board or a bottom board.
It's a side. Yeah,
that is literally a sideboard.
Yeah,
that is neat. Where does this attach to? Looks like
it doesn't attach to the gate. It would have to be a gate.
Yep, I suppose so. That's neat. You can go to the moon, the underworld.
To the moon.
The unknown Kadath, the enchanted wood. That's neat. I cannot wait to
Is Ulthar on there?
I don't know.
I don't want to look at your map.
So while Brad is drooling over that, I've been telling you I've been getting
also
a lot...
delayed, by the way.
What's that?
Yeah. Oh, there's Ulthar.
Yeah. I've been getting a lot better prints lately thanks to this Flex 3D, F-L-E-C-K-S 3D system, or F-L-E-K-S system. And it's basically, it's an acrylic piece that has just a little bit of a surface to it that helps the plastic adhere to it. And in order to get it off, you literally flex it.
Oh, that's an awful sound.
It does, right? I mean, it really freaks you out. But this stuff holds up. I have yet to break one.
Huh.
But you just give it a little flex, and this may be a little bit harder to come off. In fact, I may rip a piece. Nope, there it is. And then it just pops right off, and you get a nice smooth bottom. You got a nice level piece to this.
You got a little bit of sprue there in your...
Yeah, so this is my biggest problem that I had. And if you follow me on Major Spoilers or I think it's Steven Schleicher on Instagram, I had posted a bunch of stuff back in October, maybe November, somewhere around there, where I was having problem with like this little bit of stuff left over, getting it to come off and not gum up the entire plate.
Right.
And, usually I will use like a chisel or a spatula to get this stuff off of a regular piece, like a taped up piece or a piece of glass that I'm printing on or whatever.
Yeah.
And the company was just like, no, just get a straight edge razor and just slice underneath there and it'll come right off.
Huh.
And I was like, oh, well, then if it's just a straight edge razor, I'll just use my very sharp chisel. No, when they say use a straight edge razor, a blade, get a blade, because finally the other day I was like, you know what? These things are like $25 for a pack of 3.
Yeah.
I could just buy another one, or, all right, fine, let me just try a razor blade. So I got a razor blade out, and sure enough, this stuff comes right up when you use a razor blade. So when people give you instructions on how to do things, do it. And now this Flex 3D is actually my favorite thing to print on, because it's, I can pull this off, I can put a blank one up there and start printing right away, and then take a minute, literally less than a minute, to clean this off with a razor blade. So
now you gave me some of these the other day that are a little warped on the bottom. Yeah,
that was because my printer wasn't aligned correctly.
Okay. Has nothing to do with your Flex 3D.
It actually has nothing to do with the Flex 3D, because after I gave you those, I was getting very frustrated, because then right after that I had 2 more prints fail, and I was like, what's going on? I was like, okay, let me just run through the whole bed leveling, because it's got to be a bed leveling issue. And sure enough, it was off by a lot.
Wow.
And so I just went back in and tightened up the screws, and boom. Everything that you see here is been done since the last time we saw each other. Not a problem, not a failed print.
Nice.
So Flex 3D people, if you are into that. Well, Brad, I'm sorry we didn't get to take any calls today. I don't know what was going on with the live stream today, but I do want to thank you for coming in and sharing your thoughts on
my pleasure
3D tiles, and never going to let you play with my tiles again, because you're got nothing but bad things to say about them.
I'm such a cynic.
I think it's fine to be a cynic.
Use your imagination.
I think it's fine to be a cynic. But I do want to thank you for coming in, and hopefully you don't freeze to death in this coming storm. You think we're going to get anything?
No.
Okay. All right.
That's why I did not buy a generator.
Well, you wouldn't have been able to buy one anyway.
Yeah.
And you know what? For the price that I paid for this generator, that other problem that you're facing, could have bought twice as many of the things that you need. So there you go. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to Finally Friday, of downloading it or listening it after the fact. Sorry we had problems with the stream. We will check into that and see why we had so many problems this week with that. We'll be back next week with more Finally Friday to talk to you about all the cool things that are going on. Be on the lookout for a VIP Patreon stream next weekend. And if you would, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/majorspoilers. We're only 9 patrons away from hitting our goal for January, and I'd sure appreciate it if you would help us out with that. Find out more at patreon.com/majorspoilers. And until the next time, take care, everyone, and we will see you soon.